Live from Darien High School, this is Varsity Boys Soccer on the DAF Media Network. Tonight we have the Greenwich Cardinals facing off against the Darien Blue Wave. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon and into the evening. My name's Ted Brennan, alongside me is Eric Hannigan, and joining us shortly will be Jonathan Gill. And Eric, we should have a great matchup between the Greenwich Cardinals and the Darien Blue Wave.
Yeah, so I was actually here for their last matchup, which was a barn burner, to say the least. Greenwich really have some strong performers on this team, and I had the chance to speak to John before the game. They are out 6 of their starters due to both injury and quarantine, so that is going to be that will be something they have to go up against today. So it'll be a fun matchup.
They are missing 2 of their senior captains, 2 of the heart and soul of this team, 2 of their defensive backs, if you call them that, and that's shown in their last couple of matchups against some of these teams. They've had trouble finishing within the last 5 minutes. Teams have put the pressure on them and scored in the last 5-10 minutes, and that's why Darien is sitting at 4-2-3. But on the opposite end, Greenwich has been nothing short of perfect, 7-0 so far this season. They've scored 21 points overall. They're sitting atop of the FCIAC West. A dominant force, to say the least.
Yeah, and we saw last game, this is their second matchup. In the first one, we saw the quality of goals that can come from this Greenwich team. It came from long shots, it came from crosses into the box, and some good quality headers. So they know how to score from every which way, and that really makes it a challenge both for the back line and the goalkeeper for Darien.
And we are underway here at Stadium Field. Greenwich took the opening kickoff, which means Darien in the second half will start with it. Now, Greenwich isn't Darien's crosstown rival like New Canaan, but these matchups between the two teams are still highly anticipated within the teams themselves.
Oh, absolutely. It's similar quality schools, athletic programs, so it always makes it an interesting matchup between the two. And both have notoriously had, strong programs, soccer, football, and across the board. So I think that makes these games even more interesting.
Greenwich will have an early corner kick here. And a low ball just past the goal line.
Looks like it'll go for another corner kick. Greenwich have another opportunity. We could already see they're mixing it up with those low balls across the box.
This one's a bit higher. It will result in another Greenwich corner kick here early on. Now, one of the injuries that you mentioned earlier for this Darien team is their starting goalkeeper, Will Lehan, who was excellent a couple of games ago in their New Canaan matchup. He's injured. He's out with a back injury. He's been dealing with that for a while. So they're turning to Mason Christensen, a freshman, and he will have quite his hands full with this Greenwich team.
Yeah, talk about a game to really be tested. This Greenwich team, again, can really get some good long shots on net. And I think he'll go through some difficult shots today. So we see some good dribbling there.
Greenwich doing a good job early on, keeping it in their offensive zone. Good defense by Darien on that far side. Now, Eric, as a former player on a cold night like this, what are you doing to keep warm and make sure that you're not making too many mistakes due to the weather?
Yeah, it's a good question, and honestly, the solution is probably what the coach wants to hear. You always have to be moving, whether or not it's little side-to-side shuffles, but you really should be checking in for passes when your team has the ball, marking your man off the ball. So hopefully, by nature, that keeps you warm enough. But it can be difficult sometimes. But fortunately, I think it's a little milder than it could be this time of year. So it's a very nice night to play.
Christensen will get his first punt of the game, hoping to progress it past midfield. That looked like more like an American football punt rather than a football punt. But nonetheless, they got it over midfield, which is what they want.
Peg just draws the foul there in a dangerous spot for Darien.
Peg, just a sophomore for this Darien team. He's a regular contributor on this Darien team. And Caruso right into the hands of the goalkeeper.
It was a good effort. You could hear John screaming what we talked about, and I assume that means a quick free kick because he immediately bolted up to that ball and took it. And it was a good one. It was a difficult one for the goalkeeper. And as I was looking at the field puzzled, it appears the goalkeeper was as well. It's hard to keep track of those multi-sport lines. The goalkeeper walked out of the box with the ball, so that's a handball. This will actually be, if my memory serves me right, an indirect free kick.
Once again, taken by Caruso. A Greenwich goalkeeper, Murad, a little confused there. As you mentioned, Darien is playing on what normally is their football field. So Caruso will line up here. Tried to put it top corner just a little too far over the crossbar.
Yeah, that was a good opportunity for Darien. You really wish he was able to stay over that ball a little bit more to get it on the net, but early opportunity for Darien.
Fox was able to boot that one away for Darien, getting it out of the danger zone for the most part. Fox is one of the two senior captains out here for Darien. Of course, two of them are missing due to injuries and quarantining. And that's one of the problems we're starting to see, is that kids are starting to quarantine, which will hurt them come playoff time if they have key contributors out.
Yeah, this is just one of those things you never could foresee before the season or before the start of this year. But it's just something they have to deal with. And this is one of those times when squad depth really comes into it. And it'll be a show because, you know, Darien won't be the only team, I'm sure, that has to deal with it. Good through ball from Greenwich.
And an early goal there from Greenwich. So Greenwich will take an early 1-0 lead there. And another fast start for this Greenwich Cardinals team. Showing why they're 7-0, putting their foot on the gas pedal early.
Yeah, we went from a great opportunity for Darien on one end to a very cleverly slipped ball on the other, resulting in a Greenwich goal, and they are up 1-0. I think Darien's still wondering what just happened there.
On that last goal for Greenwich, that was Isaac Dumeni. So Greenwich, once again, has an early 1-0 lead with only about 8 minutes elapsed in this first half.
You'll see he's making a ton of these dangerous runs down the right-hand side. And it's no surprise that he got on the end of one already to put Greenwich up.
Christensen will have a goal kick here. And Christensen will have another opportunity to get it out of the Darien zone. Christensen so far showing that he's got a big leg, which is what you want to have in a goalkeeper, especially in times like this where the Greenwich may be putting a lot of pressure on this Darien team, so they'll have to get the ball out of their zone through other means besides dribbling it up the sidelines.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great way to flip the field, and as we see, Greenwich has a hoof of their own there. It's a good strategy, but it's probably not the best to depend on the entire game. You do want to have some build-up play in the midfield. Of course, some teams you face are just too strong to beat that. So, I mean, there's a massive punt right there.
Kennedy tried to get that one to peg, but it was a little too far. One thing that you're seeing so far from this Greenwich team is that they're getting their corner kicks and their throw-ins in very quickly, trying to waste as little time as possible.
Yeah, and it's a sign of a confident team. They know that if they push the ball up the field, they'll create those chances, and between last game and this game, they'll finish them. So we're already seeing a sense of urgency, despite the fact they're up 1-0. You don't get that from every team, but it sure makes it interesting for a neutral.
Christensen again tasked with getting this ball out of the Darien zone. Darien having a bit of a tough time early moving this ball past midfield and keeping it there. And Greenwich's defense has been stout early on.
Yeah, Darien, aside from those free kicks that they had early on, those were really the only opportunities they had. None from open play. Again, they're really depending on Billy Bronk up front to cause some problems, but he looks pretty isolated up there.
Bronca is a spark plug for this Darien team, but I'm sure he's a bit out of his element being so isolated up there, going essentially 2-on-1 every time that ball is kicked past midfield.
Yeah, it's tough. He does have pace. I've watched him in a couple of games, but the through balls coming from midfielder have far too much power on them, so he really stands no chance. That one weighted a bit better. And again, it's hard to judge on a turf field, but these guys are playing on turf week after week.
In the last matchup between these two teams, Greenwich came out on top, 3-1. Darien scored early and then let up 3 unanswered, and then that was it for the scoring. So Darien will look to put their foot on the gas pedal, although Greenwich is so far looking like they're going to take control, or they have control, and they're going to keep control of this game.
We see an offside call right there. Jumped a little early on the left side. But you're right. Greenwich looked very comfortable passing it between their back line, through midfield, and they're creating those dangerous chances. And Darien really needs to come up with some way to stop that while also kind of pushing forward to create opportunities of their own. Boone, number 11 on the left, is creating a lot of trouble for Darien.
Greenwich has this good duo on either side with Boone and Dumeni. A long throw in for Darien there, trying to push it even further into the Greenwich zone, although to no avail. A bit of a dangerous ball. That was a bit of a dangerous ball there from Fox. He just kind of left it for Christensen, but the Greenwich player was able to get to it and almost put it in.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mess back there for Darien. Ethan Fox, again, just didn't have enough power behind that back pass, and really left Christensen out to dry. Fortunately, the ref came to help out there, as it's really easy to get called for a foul on goalkeepers at any level of the game. So Darien escape what could have been 2-0.
Bit of a mishandle from Bronca on that far sideline, resulting in a Greenwich throw-in. And Eric, when you were playing for John Bradley and you guys would get down early, what was he trying to communicate to you guys through or from his sideline position, as that'll go out for a goal kick?
Yeah, he was notorious for doing a lot of shifting in the team, even that was just out on the field. He'd like to apply high pressure, but at the same time, at heart, he does like to maintain a strong defense. So, he does want to get an equalizer, but he also doesn't want to push too many men forward. That being said, later on in the game, if you're only down 1, he will throw the kitchen sink at the opposition, because I think I've mentioned before, you can lose by 2. It means nothing different than losing by 1. So.
And that one will go through the field goal. But of course, we're playing soccer, not football. So about 25 minutes remain here in this first half. Greenwich has a 1-0 lead over Darien here on the DAF Media Network, which is a joint venture between the Darien Athletic Foundation and the Darien Foundation. Christensen gets that ball over midfield again. He's been doing a ton of work and been doing a great job getting it past midfield. Unfortunately for him, his team has had a tough time keeping it over midfield.
And again, these are those chances that Darien really need to push up for, which they are. Pretty good service.
Fox got that one down the field, and it'll result in a Darien corner, as last touched by Greenwich. Trevor Pegg will be taking it for Darien. Darien has been pretty good at corner kicks, as that one is booted away. Pegg tried to cross it, but off a Greenwich defender. I believe that was George Eunice. So throw in here. Bit of a mistake there from Darien, and Greenwich will take over. Gonna get that one, or tried to get it to Bronca just a little too far, which is something we've seen early on. They've been trying to get it to Bronca on that right side, where he's a little more comfortable, but just too far for him.
Yeah, just out of reach there, and I think they'll probably want to play it more central because even if Bronca does get there, he's kind of stuck in the corner. So nice touch there from Caruso.
Header there from James Kennedy, but right into the hands of Murad.
Should be offside.
One of the big developments in recent weeks for the CIAC and the FCIAC is that there will be some playoff-like, tournament-like experience games that are confirmed to be happening for these teams, as Christensen will pick that one up. And for teams that have been playing so hard in a season that at any moment could end, tournament games are just the cherry on top of the ice cream.
Oh, absolutely, very exciting. I think, you know, in every season, not excluding this one, postseason is really what everyone's looking forward to. The games just have so much intensity, and they're so much fun to be a part of. And I did hear from John that I think Darien sits third right now, which would put them against West Hill in a semifinal. Maybe I'm incorrect about West Hill.
I believe it was Right Tech in talking with Captain Ethan Fox the other day. I believe they locked up the third seed on their game against Stanford. And I believe they have the third seed locked up, which means they will be playing Right Tech, who is the sixth seed, because the first two seeds will get a bye week.
Gotcha, okay.
And good shot there from the other Kennedy brother, Matthew. But again, a good save there from Murad. And of course, Greenwich is going into the postseason as the 1 seed. I don't believe anybody can take them out in the FCIAC West, and that's one of the things that is happening, is that the playoff experience will not be with other FCIAC divisions. It'll just be FCIAC West, FCIAC East, which is a little unfortunate for the boys and all the other athletes, because I'm sure they would like to see a little bit of new competition, as each team has played each other twice so far. However, I'm sure they're just happy to get out there and have some postseason experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with everything going on, you can't just assume that some guidelines will go away, so they'll just have to make the most of it. And again, you know, they could very well still make a stamp on the season with a good performance within their subdivision.
And if Darien can pull out a win here, it would be a big momentum booster going into the postseason if they were able to defeat Greenwich, who right now, of course, is sitting at 7-0, undefeated so far. Christensen with another good punt there. Looked like a bit of a push there from Darien. So Greenwich will take a free kick from about the 39 and a half. Good kick there from Greenwich. A shot there just over the crossbar. Just a bit high there from Greenwich.
Yeah, that was a good strike. Very difficult technique to wrap your leg around that one. That's why you do those pregame stretches, but just couldn't stay over the ball enough to keep it below the crossbar, but very dangerous chance there for Greenwich to go 2 up.
That was William Flynn on the kick there. Just unable to put it a little lower to sneak it under the crossbar. Good forward pass. Off the post there. Another chance for Greenwich.
Oof.
And Darien temporarily avoids danger for now. There was a shot, or at least a ricochet from a couple of players that hit the post, and it was a couple inches from going in.
Yeah, very close on that opportunity, and a great shot, low-driven shot from Mateus Liu, I think, number 27, which looked like it was destined for the corner, but Darien did well to get in front of that one.
Dumeni will take this throw in. And Dumeni tried to get it in with that left foot, but Christensen was right there. And Dumeni just sped past some of those defenders, just took it, looked like he was walking up to it, and then just sped past them. As another booming kick there. And that one will go into the stands for a souvenir. Oh, look at that, it bounced back. Of course, limited fans here in attendance for this game due to COVID protocols. And joining us on the broadcast now is Jonathan Gill. And Jonathan, great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Ted. Good to be here with you and Eric. Fantastic to be back. This is Wednesday Night Lights. And it seems like a pretty good scoreline for Darien so far, based on what happened last game. I know that with Greenwich, it's the kind of team where you just want to stay in it. Anything changed since last game substantially, Eric, that you've seen?
Ted and I were discussing in the big portion of the game that's already passed that Darien's actually missing 6 of their starters due to quarantine and injuries as well. So I think even before you knew that, a 1-0 scoreline is very good for Darien. When you consider that, probably even better. But Greenwich have really had the lion's share of possession in this game and the opportunities. So it'll be interesting to see if John can tweak tactics, but it's still the strong Greenwich team we saw last time.
And to Greenwich's credit on that first goal, they found the holes in this Darien defense that's missing a few key pieces. But other than that, it's been a relatively back and forth game. Although I'm sure this Darien sideline would like a little more opportunities on the offensive zone. We're about 15 minutes left here in this first half. I'm going to give a shout out to our production crew, Eric Bellingham on main, Kate DeMark on our ISO camera, Trey Cahill directing tonight, Eric Hannigan and Jonathan Gill joining me, Ted Brennan on the call tonight. And so far, it's been a good one.
It has. Very entertaining. Again, beautiful night. Wednesday Night Lights. And hopefully we have an interesting rest of the first and remainder of the game.
So now correct me if I'm wrong, but both of you guys played on this Darien soccer team at the same time, relatively speaking, correct?
Correct. So Jonathan's a year below I was, but we were both on the we played JV and varsity together. So we had a number of years of experience, for better or for worse. I always enjoyed playing with Jonathan. He was more of the creative midfield passer, whereas I spent more of my time in defense. So we got kind of unique perspectives to share with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Eric, of course, was also an excellent captain and leader, should go without saying. Was a senior captain in possibly Darien's best year, certainly the year that they turned everything around, the first year under John Bradley, in which he won FCIAC Coach of the Year. A lot of that was owed to the senior leadership, the captain sort of turning the ship. So certainly Eric should not sell himself short there. And we did face quite a lot of tough competition. And certainly Eric and I were saying, Ted, in the last broadcast, that the caliber of competition that we faced, I think, in Eric's senior year and then in my senior year, if I recall, we've done DAF commentary a few times in the last few years, and we felt mutually that this Greenwich team was one of the first teams that we saw that really was sort of reflective of the top tier, almost college level player caliber that we were getting at the very, very high end of the FCIAC when we were playing. So it's been very interesting to see this Darien team play against them. I know it's a challenge that that they maybe haven't been used to given their first 4 games, which were I think relatively straightforward. They played them all very well against New Canaan and Wright Tech. So it's good to see them handling it well once again. I know that Greenwich usually outscores opponents, 6-0, 5-0. But on the topic of senior leadership, I have to say this is a relatively young Darien team, but you have people at the back. I think you mentioned Fox quite a lot, who kind of hold this team together, keep the organization, the structure. And it makes it so that the games like this, are never blowouts, and that they're always just in it, which is a hallmark of that John Bradley team. And God knows how many times Eric's kept the game, 1-0, 2-1, so we could get back in it. And I think that's a sign of a very, very strong team.
As you mentioned, Fox is one of the senior captains on this team, along with Ackman, Lau, and Dumas. And Dumas and Lau play in the back alongside Fox. However, those two are missing tonight as they are out, which is unfortunate for this Darien team, who sorely need some help on that back line, as they've had, as I mentioned earlier, they've had a bit trouble with the last 5 minutes of games in finishing. Their last couple of games have resulted in ties due to those last 5 minutes of play. So
yeah, I think, just to go back to what Jonathan was saying there, that string of passes right in midfield right there is something you don't see many high school teams do. And again, it's kind of an ode to some of the FCIAC teams of the past who had a number of college players go on who are just immensely talented. So, I mean, that takes both soccer IQ as well as physical skill.
good cross into the box. Happened to go the opposite way. So now I want to ask you both a question. Is there any memory that sticks out in particular with you guys playing together?
Where should we start? Jonathan, would you like to go first?
I actually gave mine. I think maybe this was about a few games ago. It was the first game I did of the season with against New Canaan, the 2-1 victory, and I said it was in our FCIAC quarterfinal in 2011. We lost to a very talented Westhill team, 7-1 at the beginning of the season, and in extra time, Eric himself converted a last gasp penalty kick winner to win the game and to win Darien's first FCIAC playoff game in recent memory, and that was, probably, I think, the most special moment any of us had in our 4 years there. And I think certainly Eric would agree, so maybe I've taken it away from him, but he could provide another one.
Yeah, I mean, I think a highlight of playing with Jonathan and some of the other, younger players as well was getting to see them, come through when we were a little bit bigger and older than they were, and just seeing how they developed, I think, even, after we graduated, after we left, to see them kind of continue the strength of the program. So, there were a couple games where I remember some players would take some nasty challenges out on some of our younger players, and that's when you kind of feel the responsibility to kind of get in there and get in their face and let them know that that's not acceptable. So, it was a long process of playing with everyone, but playing with Jonathan was always a pleasure, and continuing to do so in indoor soccer and other things outside of high school soccer, just kind of was the icing on the cake.
Well, Eric, I greatly appreciate that, and certainly Eric alluding to a couple memories, I think, where people had put in some rough tackles on me, and Eric was there to stick up for me. Something to note, though, I think right now, although you cannot see us in the broadcast, Eric is roughly 5 or 6 inches taller, but I think that back in the day he was about a foot taller, so it was pretty important to have a bodyguard. But something that I think is worth bringing up in that vein is that when you're in high school, and you're a freshman or a sophomore or a junior, you may be quite a bit smaller, more underdeveloped, at that age. I think a lot of people hit growth spurts, junior, senior year. And so it's kind of worth noting how difficult it is to be a sophomore or junior dense team, especially when you're playing a tough senior opposition like Greenwich, which I think you should give all the credit. That's great clearance. All the credit to this Darien team for. I mean, Ted, you talk about it all the time. They're so young. It's really just not easy to do. I mean, this is not the same as having college sophomores versus college seniors. I mean, there's a big difference going on here.
Yeah, I think anyone could associate when, you're at a certain grade or certain age, you think you're kind of normal size, when in reality you kind of advance 2-3 years and realize how small kind of kids of that age group were. And, that speaks volumes because, there are some players out there who aren't the most physically imposing, but they're really skillful on the ball and very smart players. So, it's a nice balance to see. and always interesting to see kind of the dynamic on different teams.
Totally agreed, and I think, outside of physical maturity, and Eric alluded to it there, it's emotional maturity, and I see a lot of it from this Darien team, but also driven by a very good coach, which doesn't hurt. And we talked with John after the last Greenwich game, in which Darien, they had a tough 3-1 loss where all 3 goals came in pretty quick succession, and we kind of asked him first thoughts. When we expected him to say something along the lines of, it was a good game, made it pretty close. And instead, in classic John Bradley fashion, he just said, no, I have a plan for the next one, and they're not going to know it's coming. Which the guy, he is constantly thinking about how to win soccer games, even if the odds seem against him. And, right now we've arrived, and we're late in the first half, and Darien's certainly still in this. But yeah, certainly unfortunate to see some of the key players missing. A couple I'm noticing right here. I can see Billy Bronco seems to be one of them is out.
He's just taking a breather. He played early on in this first half. They've actually switched out some of their top line. They've put in Galvin and some other players. I believe Thomas Cleary is also in, so they're just getting some rest. But as we mentioned, players like Will Lehan, he's out with a back injury. He's their normal starting goalkeeper. Lau and Dumas are out as well. All key contributors to this Darien team.
And it's also worth asking, is Tommy Bronca?
I believe I saw Bronca warming up. I know he had a bit of a concussion earlier. He took a defender to the face.
Oh.
Wow. I mean, the last Greenwich game, which I believe the last game that Eric and I were on the mic for, Darien lost 3-1, but we thought that Tommy was about the MVP of that game. I mean, he was so commanding in his box, made a couple of really, really key important saves. Greenwich pepper the goal, over 20 shots, which apparently they do every single game, and he did pretty remarkably. But still, I mean, 1-0 right now seems like we got some pretty good stuff going in net too. So some good depth in Darien for that, or for Darien at that position.
It's definitely a testament to this Darien team. Going up and down their roster, there's more than a handful of underclassmen on this team. And if you look at this Greenwich side, it does not look like there's there's about one underclassman on this Greenwich team. So 2 very different age groups. But this Darien team right now has it at 1-0. So they're still very much in this game, and it's come from their depth.
Yeah, we I guess not to give too much away here into the top secret strategy of John Bradley. I know they may have 1 game left against Greenwich. I believe they have to play 3 in total against them, correct?
Correct.
But John was saying, and I think we've talked about this in the games that we've done earlier, Ted, is Darien's very good going over the top to their fast physical forwards. And I think Greenwich actually doesn't have anyone at the back who is very good at dealing with that long through ball, and then also their goalkeeper doesn't move out. I believe it's Adam Murad. Doesn't move out very much, I guess, from his goal line to sort of sweep the box, despite being a decent shot stopper. And I think John was saying he wanted to get a lot more balls over the top this game to his forwards. And so, as we've seen in previous games, I think we'd expect a goal for Darien to come that way. I think that's Greenwich's sort of one Achilles heel.
Good save there by Christensen. And Eric, I think we saw a little bit of that in the first half, or early on in this first half. Darien was trying to get that ball into Bronca in the corner, just too far for him.
Yeah, it was poor waiting for the through balls, and you hope the midfielders can figure that out if Darien really have any chance in this game. But Greenwich, as we just saw, is having issues with it as well. So
about 3:30 remaining in this first half, as the lights are starting to kick in on this Wednesday night. And it's a beautiful night for soccer. Pretty much clear skies and a brisk temperature here at Stadium Field.
it's a very deft touch and great shot as Greenwich still deep in Darien's half right now.
Yeah, we saw quite a bit of that last game, I think, from Greenwich. A lot of shots from outside the box. They have that quality. That there was Jake Hugh Jones from left back, who he serves in a lot of good crosses, serves in a lot of good corner kicks, and certainly shows he can have a rip at goal himself. This is the problem with Greenwich that, we were talking about, I think, last game quite a bit. They have the passing ability and the control to play that through ball, the physicality to play these longer plays, just like you saw there. And then also, you can't stand off them too much because they're so good at shooting.
Oh,
And that's brilliant. Oh. Well, a highlight moment absolutely robbed there.
That was Dumeni on that far side, I believe. And Dumeni already has a goal tonight. He was looking for another one there.
Well, certainly nearly deserved one there. I mean, that was weaving through the defense. Absolutely great control to get that long through ball down. Weave through a couple defenders and unlucky to hit the post there.
A little over a minute remaining here in this first half. And Eric, what did you see from this Greenwich team early on?
A lot of intensity, as we're seeing right now. Some pretty dangerous shots, but really a lot of play through the wings. And I think Darien hasn't really figured out a way to manage that. Greenwich are looking as well for the kind of through balls, which almost created a second goal we saw from a mistake from Ethan Fox. But they just look very composed. The defense, maybe they're not the most standout players on the fields, but they're doing their jobs, and they don't really look like they're under pressure. So, again, very solid performance. Not as crazy of a scoreline so far, but that could very well change second half.
Second half action is right around the corner. About 30 seconds in this first half, as Christensen gets another save. He's been doing a ton of work tonight for this Darien team, and as a freshman, he's taken the challenge and ran with it.
Yeah, I think this is, John Bradley certainly before the game would be happy with something like this at halftime. Obviously not ideal, but can definitely recover from this Darien type of team that can score a goal at any time. So, valiant first half effort from our seen so far.
So that'll do it for the first half here on the DAF Media Network. Greenwich has a score of 1-0. We will be back with second half action in a moment.
Celebrating and supporting Darien athletes. That is a simple mission of the Darien Athletic Foundation. Broadcasting live from the field, DAF Media covers 125 games a year. All Darien teams, our youth, in our town, on our fields. Fields like the Center Oval and Upper Oval turfs, the JV softball field, and Stadium East, the longest turf in New England. All made possible by the Darien Athletic Foundation and its generous founders and donors. The Darien Athletic Foundation is not just committed to building our town's athletic infrastructure, it's improving the civic infrastructure for everyone to enjoy. The multimedia scoreboard, the snack bar pavilion, and the stadium lights, a $750,000 investment that makes Darien High School just the second school in Connecticut with LED lights. The Darien Athletic Foundation board is made up of local parents who know just how quickly it goes by. Its archives of more than 60,000 photos capture those precious moments of our young athletes as they strive to be their very best. The Darien Athletic Foundation has raised almost $9.5 million for our town and its kids, and it's not stopping there. as it continues to build a legacy for our youth as bright as their future, both on and off the field.
I'm proud of the work the Darien Foundation has done over the past 20 years. If you live here, our work has likely impacted you, your family, and your neighbors. Since our founding in 1998, we've provided more than $4.2 million in grants, which create opportunity for Darien's youth, support our town's safety and security services, and enhance the overall quality of life in Darien through collaboration with community organizations.
As a family that's relatively new to town and planning to make this our long-term home, I'm grateful to see my community and my family benefit from the Darien Foundation. When I learned that the edible gardens at the elementary schools, the generator at the Darien Library, and the playground by the Sound were all funded by the same organization, I raised my hand to get involved. I'm proud to support an organization whose impact I see every day in our schools and throughout our community.
So far this year, the Darien Foundation has awarded $138,000 in grants to enhance our community. In 2013, the Darien Community Association opened a 4-acre bird sanctuary thanks to a grant from the Darien Foundation. The serene wooded glade has attracted numerous birds, bees, and butterflies, as well as more than 200 school children and other visitors. This year, they added a new pondless waterfall, as well as more trees, plantings, signage, and benches. In 1976, the Darien Historical Society and Darien High School students built the Middlesex, an authentic replica of the 18th century whaleboats. These were used by local patriots in the Revolutionary War to fight the British Navy in Long Island Sound. The Darien Historical Society is restoring this artifact so that it can be part of Darien's upcoming 2020 bicentennial celebrations. The live turtle exhibit continues to be the most popular attraction for children at the Darien Nature Center, which welcomes over 16,000 visits annually. A new forest and pond ecosystem will allow visitors to engage with several species of turtle that will live together in a 50-square-foot habitat that resembles their natural home.
This has been such a special collaboration between the Darien Nature Center and the Darien Foundation, because not only have they provided generous funding to us, but we've been able to meet with members of the foundation and our staff and talk about what is going to make the very best exhibit for the town of Darien, and we've really added value to the process by doing that.
The vast majority of food distributed by Person to Person is donated from local suppliers and businesses. A group of dedicated volunteers drives the brand new cargo van on these daily rounds, which each year account for more than $100,000 in collected food. Person to Person also has an extensive youth program, offering many Darien High School and middle school students their first experiences at volunteering.
Thanks to the Darien Foundation, we have a beautiful new van. We're very excited about it, not only because it's new and it's safe for those who are riding in it and driving and going to pick up all the food, but also it speaks to the support of the Darien Foundation, as well as speaks to what Person to Person does in the community.
For more than 20 years, the Darien Foundation has been investing in Darien, offering our town's youth, emergency services, and community organizations an avenue to pursue innovation and excellence. Collaboration with you, the members of our community, has been vital to our mission. Thank you for supporting the Darien Foundation. We are building a better Darien together.
Back here on the DAF Media Network with Eric Hannigan and Jonathan Gill. We have some second half action coming up for you viewers at home in about 30 seconds or so. Greenwich has an early 1-0 lead on the goal from Isaac Dumeni. And Darien will be looking to respond here in this second half. And I'm going to ask both of you guys the same question: is if you were Darien, what would you be looking to do differently to put that goal in net?
That's a tough one. I think it really, they had decent opportunities with those through balls. You really just need to weight them better so that, Bronca, whoever is leading the line, has an opportunity to run onto them. There were plenty of gaps, and I think Bronca has sufficient speed to get behind that defense and finish. It just needs to have a better initial product. So that's what I would recommend. Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of in the same vein, but maybe a little bit more simple. I just think you want the ball in the Greenwich third. I think, this Darien team I've seen this year have gotten the lion's share of their goals from sort of creating havoc in the opposition box. And the way that Greenwich is going to beat you is kind of defense through offense, where they're going to keep the ball, control it in the midfield, put it, I guess, in your own defensive zone. And I think in this case, Darien needs to have, pretty strong clearances, pretty decent midfield play to send the balls over the top. And then for the strikers and for the midfield, to just keep the pressure on the Greenwich defenders and on the Greenwich goalkeeper, sort of, let them make the mistake. But if it turns into one of those games where Greenwich, has possession of the ball the entire time and is keeping it the Darien half, it's going to be very difficult for them to get a goal, I would say. So it's going to take a lot of hustle. It's going to take a lot of press, certainly.
So second half action underway here on the DAF Media Network, a joint venture between the Darien Foundation and the Darien Athletic Foundation.
I see Caruso off to a flying start there. A little bit of a Lionel Messi action. Beats 5 defenders. Certainly this team, I say they need a hustle and press, but they've never showed a lack of it. We see Billy Bronca back on the pitch. It's always good on that front as well. I think that as well, Eric was saying earlier in the first half that Greenwich were doing well to get out onto the wings, and they still were a little bit, but I've seen Darien be a little bit better on that front. I think Greenwich always likes to have that option, playing out through the wings, getting those crosses in, and making the space there, to keep the attacking pressure on Darien. But Darien's done pretty well, I think, in getting some key tackles in, so certainly we want to see them keep that up. I think especially if you let Greenwich's fullbacks get involved in the play, in addition to their wingers, it's going to be really tough for Darien to sort of get any sort of control or tempo. And also, goes out saying not really in Darien's control, but you can't concede a, 25 to 30 yard screamer against Greenwich. But unfortunately, they're just they seem like the team that's just going to pull out 1 or 2 a game. I mean, they really do have that much attacking talent.
We almost saw one of those screamers there, but I believe a Darien body got in the way. So whoever was on the receiving end of that one will be feeling it tomorrow when they wake up.
Yeah, quite a few of those. A lot of laying their body on the line from Darien I've seen against this Greenwich team. I mean, this is a team that's going to put 20 shots in you a game. You can't really do much about it. The best you can do is just get your body in front of the ball every time. Pretty underrated thing, but just always be stopping the shot. The atmosphere, by the way, Ted, I mean, I say this every single broadcast, and I've been only on the Oval for the ones this year, but it's excellent. It's great to have some of the fans here. We're very lucky for it. And then also the lights and the cheerleaders, these are, for us old-timers, new additions. Very nice for the kids to have this.
That ball goes out. I believe the last time I called the game was with Eric here under the lights against Wright Tech, and it was Darien senior night, so the atmosphere then was a little different. But it's great to see that we have fans, despite the restrictions, cheering on their hometown.
Yeah, different circumstances, obviously, for senior night compared to tonight. But I think can objectively say this is a much better game, a lot more competitive. So I think that'll really satisfy both sets of fans.
And do we have an update, by the way, speaking of 2 teams that are doing very well in the division that we have on the pitch right now, do we have an update on the playoff possibilities?
Yes, so Darien was able to clinch the 3 seed the other night with a tie against Stanford, I believe it was, as that one goes way behind that line. So Darien was able to clinch the 3 seed. Right now they're sitting at 4-2-3. They will end up playing Wright Tech, who is the 6th seed. in the playoff-like experience because Greenwich is sitting at number 1 at 7-0, and whoever is the second seed, I cannot recall off the top of my head, but whoever is the second seed in the FCIAC West will have a bye along with Greenwich. So it'll be 3-6, 4-5, and then I believe there will probably be some reseeding after that.
Well, makes sense, and I think Darien should be able to win against Wright Tech comfortably if they're playing at the level they are now. But it's good that they even have a playoff at all. When did this get instated? I know the last time we talked, Ted, that it wasn't exactly on the cards.
I believe a couple of days ago, or some time ago, I believe the FCIAC and the CIAC talked about it, and they decided just to keep playoffs within their pods, and I think that was approved some time ago, within the last few weeks. And yeah, so everything is in their pods. It'll be FCIAC West against FCIAC West teams, FCIAC East, so on and so forth. And Eric and I talked about it a little bit early in the first half that although disappointing that, you're not going to be playing some other teams like Darien might not be, or they won't be playing teams like Fairfield Ludlow or other teams like that. They're just happy to get out there and have a playoff experience.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And just one thing I'd add, but before Eric speaks in this, is that
He's onside.
He's onside. It's a good opportunity here. He should finish that, yeah.
And Dumeni gets his second goal of the game. Darien players were calling for the offsides, but he was onside, and Dumeni gets his second goal of the game.
Well, he just had so much space there. That just took, I think, all of us off guard. The fullbacks didn't shift over and cover, arguably the most dangerous player on the Greenwich team. Eric, any thoughts on that goal from the defensive side, Darien?
No, I think they were caught off guard, like you said, and there's really no chance there. I mean, that was an easy finish for Greenwich, albeit a good one. But that's about as simple as you'll get in terms of a goal.
Oh, it's unfortunate to concede an easy one. You wanted to make it difficult for Greenwich, certainly. 2-0, not out of it, as we say, kind of a cliche. It's the most dangerous lead in soccer. The team ahead can get complacent, concede one pretty easily, then the pressure's on. So certainly Darien's not out of this game yet. But anyways, I think that it's great to hear that they have a playoff. Obviously, it's deserved, and my last update was that they still didn't know. And this Darien team, I mean, Eric, you can talk a little bit about it because it kind of goes into John Bradley teams in general. But this is not a team that's someone you want to play in a playoff game.
The Greenwich team?
No, well, obviously the Greenwich team, but the Darien team, especially to face Greenwich in the final or whoever they play in the semifinal. I mean, this seems like a team who's almost ready for cup games, I would say.
Yeah, I think they're getting there. I mean, having to play a team like Greenwich 3 times in a season and potentially 4, depending on how, this experience goes. You would hope to get some optimistic signs, I guess, from your results. And, maybe it'll come in the 3rd game. But again, I think today we've just seen the Greenwich team is too strong for Darien. They need to come up with some alternative formula or some different game plan. Maybe that's playing players out of position, but they need to come up with some solution if they do want to beat Greenwich, come playoff experience time.
Dumeni has another opportunity.
A little bit selfless of him there. He did so well, and then didn't look for the angle to shoot. Was trying to square the ball. Unlucky there. Probably should have been a 3rd goal. Yeah, I mean, would agree with Eric. I think Darien's doing better to keep it relatively close. Obviously, they shouldn't be conceding those easy goals, but I do feel like this is a team that can, pull off a 1-0 or 2-1 shock upset. I mean, obviously, they're doing quite a bit better against Greenwich compared to all the other teams in the FCIAC West, by my understanding. And don't count out that maybe, given that the playoffs are now a thing, that John Bradley is saving his best for last. We like to say there's a term, 3-dimensional chess. John Bradley's the type of guy to save his best tactics for the games that matter the most. So, Eric, little smile on Eric's face. You might know.
That's what it is. Sure.
This Greenwich team might be a little more well-rested. Their last game was Friday as opposed to Darien's Monday game. And, of course, we've mentioned this, Darien has a bit of the injury bug. So they're definitely missing key players, and they're probably a little bit more tired than Greenwich, who has not played since Friday and are only missing 1 or 2 of their players.
Yeah, and also notable, Ted, that Greenwich has a lot of depth. I think we saw in the last game against Greenwich, they made a lot of substitutions in the second half. Brought on, almost an entirely, different slate of players, and they played at the exact same quality. I mean, this is a team where, they really do have 2 starting 11s. I mean, I remember at halftime of the last game, the Greenwich substitutes started warming up, sort of, and Eric and I were watching. We were pretty astounded by how high quality they were, given that they didn't even play in the first half. I mean, this is a team that, not only are they well rested right now, but they just have so many options off the bench, and so certainly it demands a lot of the core Darien players, to sort of work extra hard to combat that, because Greenwich is going to have fresh legs a decent amount.
And Greenwich is an older team, as we mentioned before. Lots of seniors, lots of juniors, as Peg will take this corner for Darien.
Oh.
And just over the crossbar. But as I was mentioning, this Greenwich team is older, and I'm sure most of these guys have had, a couple of years of varsity experience, whether that be 2, 3, or even 1 year of varsity experience, where these Darien players, most of them are coming straight from JV their freshman year.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a ludicrous step up. I mean, I remember JV soccer faintly. I think the level was quite far below varsity soccer. And, to come up and to have to play a team like this, just very difficult test.
I want to talk a little bit about the 2 coaches between these 2 teams, both very, very respected in their communities. For Darien, of course, we've mentioned John Bradley. He was the 2011 Boys Soccer FCIAC Coach of the Year. But on the opposite side for Greenwich, they have Kurt Putnam. He's been coaching at Greenwich since 2001. He's won 5 FCIAC championships and 3 FCIAC Coach of the Year. And he has qualified for the FCIAC tournament 17 out of his 19 years here for Greenwich. So a very good coaching matchup between these 2 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's testament to I guess Kurt Putnam's consistency, longevity, and ability as a coach, that he's able to do that. I mean, that is such a long time, and certainly actually something that we didn't know before the match. I suppose we must have played against him once or twice, but something to note as well, Ted, is that soccer is one of those sports where it definitely doesn't start in high school. It starts at a very young age, and it starts at the grassroots level. And, Greenwich, when you play them when you're, even 8 years old, they just really do field strong teams. It's just a town with a soccer culture. And I think that Darien, in the last, I would say, decade, has kind of grown into that. But beforehand, it wasn't the case. And, you owe a lot of that to John Bradley. I think what some people watching the broadcast may not know is that, and I always have to stop when Giovanni has the ball. Something that I think some people watching the broadcast may not know is that John is heavily involved in Darien youth soccer. Pretty prominent coach there, and that's a great shot.
Good save there from Greenwich.
Well, Murad with a good pause over the net. Did that a couple of times last game. It's good signs that Darien's testing that goal. But John is doing well, building a soccer program and a soccer community in Darien. And at the end of the day, that's something that matters a lot. I'm sure that Greenwich can attest to that, is that a lot of their players, when they come into the high school, they've had years of experience, they're ready, they already know each other. So
that's something you see with a lot of different towns and a lot of different programs, as the Darien corner kick to no avail.
Yeah, and it's John coaches at the youth level, so I think it's kind of difficult to get a sense for all players and what they develop into. You will see those standouts and kind of know where your strong, feature players might lie. You can also start to influence, even just getting a certain group of players to play together more often really helps the chemistry later on. And, it's also fun. John gets some of the players to even help coach out Blue Wave kickers and whatnot. So it's nice that people can get involved at that level.
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with Eric, and I think it's just growing. I see the engagement, in the Darien alumni game every single year that we play on Thanksgiving. At the grassroots level, I actually had the privilege of hanging out with John a little bit in the town plaza near the melting pot this summer, and I was trying to have a conversation with him, but it's hard to get a word in because about 10 parents approached him, and these were not high school soccer player parents. These were, parents of younger children who, John was coaching, and I think that the level of engagement in the town has gone up substantially with the sport, and that's a very good clearance there. And that really will, end up benefiting the high school team greatly. All the work starts before high school. And speaking of great players in the town, Eric and I just had a brief celebrity sighting. Brennan Bronca, who I believe is the cousin of Billy and Tommy, and fantastic player in his own right. Played Division I soccer at Columbia University, and was a senior captain in 2012. Did just show up to watch the game, and a local entrepreneur now, right, Eric? He is running Bar Vita Juice Bar in Midtown Darien, Connecticut. So check that out when you can. Support a fellow Darien soccer alum.
So it's interesting, we go back to the involvement in alumni games, and, there's the grassroots movement, as they say, and the pajamas movement, as they also say. Jonathan, who has started to play less and less as the years go on, has recently featured in our alumni game wearing his pajamas. We stick him in net, and as you could expect, the end result was not pretty. Let in some howlers. So it's just nice to see some better goalkeeper talent out here on the pitch than we're used to in our alumni games. So.
Well, I try and contribute any way I can, but yeah.
If that's what you call it.
Well, the alums did win the last alumni game. But yeah, anyways, it's overall, great soccer culture in this town, and it's growing. And again, more good play from Darien, I think at the back, doing well, dealing with these set pieces. It's a really good sign. And we've talked about this, I think, at length, Ted. A lot of the goals, in high school do come from set pieces, and by virtue of that, it's really important to learn how to defend those set pieces really well. And I see Darien doing very well to stop those balls, from getting in dangerous places. Very good clearances from defenders. So I think that's a good sign, and I think it's especially a good sign, for these later games, these playoff games, where they do get decided by moments like that.
Darien tends to be very good out of set pieces, although tonight they've had very limited set piece opportunities. And you guys mentioned that you saw Brennan Bronca around here, and the Bronca family certainly runs deep in this soccer program. They've had Brennan, Cole Bronca last year played, and of course this year they have Tommy and Billy.
And it looks like they've all made substantial contributions to the team. But that's what you need in Darien. I mean, you need not just soccer players, but soccer families. You need people, parents and aunts and uncles who are invested, I guess, in the long-term health of soccer in the town. Because I think that, and I think you see it a lot in youth football, and definitely in youth lacrosse in Darien. The magic doesn't happen overnight. You don't win the FCIAC multiple years in a row. Just by the kids coming in and picking up the sport freshman year. It starts very young. And certainly, without saying that this conversation started kind of as a testament to Greenwich. They're always tough to play at the youth level. And it gets reflected in the high school team. That's where you get the results. But encouraging things for Darien. Now we come here, Eric and I, many years later, and it's a young Darien team, not many seniors, getting great results across the board. Putting out a great showing, and also a lot of character, playing for one another, never giving up. It's really heartening to see.
And a lot of these younger players on this Darien team are getting some good varsity experience, which is something that you always want to have, especially going against senior-heavy teams, as Greenwich has another opportunity, but a good stop there from Christensen, who's done a great job all night so far.
Well, William Flynn from Greenwich is going to want that one back. I think, we noted he and Rodriguez San Pedro up top for Greenwich, especially last game as well. They're really, really tough with their physicality, their link-up play, and their control of the ball. But, certainly if Greenwich wants to, play a team like Darien and really bury the game, they have to take the chances like those. And, that's one thing I think that has been missing from Greenwich. You know, they get a lot of shots per game. They keep a lot of control of the ball. But they really do need to be more clinical in those moments if they want to end this game. They could have just ended the game right there, and they failed to. But a fantastic save as well, goes without saying.
About 22 minutes Maine here. As Darien had an opportunity there. But about 22 minutes remain, and it's still a 2-0 match with Greenwich leading.
Well, very well played, by the way, and by Alex Caruso on the wing. Unlucky that it was cut out, but he did great to get all the way across the byline and put a dangerous ball across the box. Darien will be very pleased if they can get more of those opportunities.
Matthias Liu was unable to get that one past Christensen. When you guys were playing here at Darien, was there a team that you guys just hated going up against?
There were a couple, actually. Trumbull, West Hill, and Norwalk. Actually, Norwalk probably top of that list. They had so many talented players on the ball. I think at one point it was 1-2 in the FCIAC. We were maybe 2 points behind or something like that. And they just trounced us, I think, 5 or 6-0. Just really immensely talented players, really quick, very good on the ball. And Darien come close there. Yeah, it was just not a pleasure to play against them. You were running around in circles pretty much the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, agreed with Eric on his number one choice. That Norwalk team, I think, that year was really something special. And, you know, they sent 5 or 6 players, I think, to Division I colleges. And, you know, just impossible to play against them. But they ended up, you know, and of course you could never count them out. They ended up losing, I think, in a shock FCIAC upset to New Canaan. And that New Canaan team that year, you know, had a lot of good players. A few went Division I. One ended up being a professional goalkeeper, actually. So New Canaan worth mentioning in that mix. Eric mentioned West Hill, Trumbull were excellent. And then Staples was another team that I think we had a bit of a shock 1-0 victory against, who also had quite a few good players. You know, that year I think was really defined by grit. I think that we were, on paper, you know, the less talented team in a few of the matches, and we ended up pulling out great results. You know, which is I think precisely what Darien needs to do. I think that they have shown that they have, you know, maybe a bit more quality than New Canaan this year, and I think certainly they shouldn't have too much issue with Wright Tech in the playoff quarterfinals. You know, but going up against a team like Greenwich in a cup game, I think that they're going to need to, you know, pull out a really special, gritty performance. Some encouraging signs, as we've seen right here, and that's very well played.
Was there a stadium or venue that you guys enjoyed playing at that just had an atmosphere that was just electric, or was there anything like that that you guys enjoyed playing at someone else's stadium?
Yeah, the Oval was electric, first off.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to give a shout out to them. You know, it was a bit different back then. They didn't have kind of those more formal stands. So everyone kind of piled in on the hill that aligns the side. And it kind of made everyone feel very in the action. So that was fun. Brian McMahon, again, it was all the games he played at night pretty much. Brian McMahon, we had a huge crowd turnout for. They had a big crowd. Just a really intense game, and something about a night game you really can't replicate. Those are probably the first two that come to mind for me.
Yeah, agreed with Eric. I think it's usually, you know, when you're at a football stadium under the lights is when, you know, the atmosphere, I guess, feels the best. You know, we didn't get a lot of that. I think this is, you know, the lights were not installed. We weren't playing on the stadium turf quite a lot. But certainly the Oval was great because, as you all know, an atmosphere is really most defined by its fans. And we were lucky enough to have some great ones, you know, packed in. And I think the one silver lining I've seen here, I know it's been tough for everyone and for Darien sports, the pandemic, but it seems like, you know, we're getting as many fans as we're allowed to at these games, and also they're being very vocal, you know, and I think that's what these kids deserve, a good atmosphere in that respect. And certainly it's great to see that they have you know, they are playing a home game at a football stadium, and oh my goodness.
Jeez.
Well, posting down.
Almost went bar down and in, but it went bar down and out.
A bit of a lucky break there for Darien.
I believe that was Andrew Lowett on the attempt there for Greenwich.
Well, same old story there. Darien can't concede those chances, but Greenwich also needs to finish those. Again, many chances to bury the game. They haven't done it. But yeah, it is I'll say these type of atmospheres, stadium with the lights, were the best ones, and it's great to see that in a home game, now that Darien soccer gets to play them.
And that's definitely something that these lights have provided, a new atmosphere for all sporting teams who get to play under the lights, not just football. And for a while it was mainly football playing under these lights, but especially given the circumstances this year, soccer has shined under these lights. Although he was offsides there, you could see Dumeni just turning on the jets.
Yeah, I mean, he's so dangerous out there. I definitely like to see him cut inside a bit more. I think he's staying a bit too far wide. I think he kind of asking for the play to come to him as opposed to him getting more involved in the play. Because that's someone, I think Greenwich wants on the ball all the time. But I think you see Greenwich, they just do so well mixing it up with the wide play to Dumeni, and then with the inside play to their two larger strikers as well. And so it's just really difficult to defend against. So goes without saying, Darien are doing very well.
That was some pretty good give and go action, as that one is wide and outside. That was some pretty good give and go action from Kennedy and Pegg, something we haven't really seen much from this Darien team, as they haven't really had the opportunity to progress it forward in their offensive zone.
Yeah, totally agreed, Ted. That's exactly what you work on in training, these kind of 1-2 plays up the byline to try and get the opportunity to cross. And it's really what Darien needs if they're going to break down this defense. I think this Greenwich defense, they have some holes. They don't do well when the ball goes past them. Darien needs to do a better job, I think, exposing that if they want to get goals in these games.
Cam Heitkamp has come into the game for Greenwich, replacing Dumeni, as he gets a well-deserved rest, as he's got 2 goals to his name in this 2-0 match here, as Caruso is taking it all up the field. It'll be a Darien throw-in.
That was really well played by Caruso. And I'd like to see, I think, the other Darien attackers sort of spread out more, make some more runs, give him some options. I think he's very good at creating space for himself in that midfield, Caruso, and I think that his supporting cast there needs to be a little less static off the ball. As we said, Darien are going to get goals with those balls over the top, and as a result of that, the forwards and the wing midfielders need to be making runs all the time. Certainly a tough physical ask, but if you want to win a game like this, that's got to happen.
So a goal kick here for Greenwich. And I don't know if the fans at home can hear it over our mics, but the cheerleaders are here for Darien, as they aren't allowed in the 7-on-7 football games that they play here. So good for some energy boosting.
It's electric.
No, it really is. No other word for it.
I mean, they're doing their job because, they're creating quite a lot of noise here. And I think the parents are starting to get into it more. So kind of nice to see some variation to soccer games that we weren't used to.
Definitely another case of wish we had it, but glad it's here now. So, I mean, Eric, overall, maybe getting a bit ahead of myself here, but, the playoffs are coming up. This seems like kind of a likely matchup for Darien. Certainly they're going to need to get through a quarterfinal, which they should win, and then a semifinal after that. But, I mean, do you see, and certainly, you know a lot about winning cup games, winning these, these tough nail-biters, and, do you see anything that you would want Darien to improve specifically to kind of have a fighting chance in a game like this in the future?
Oh, yeah. I think there are elements that they could look to tweak to help out. I feel like John's kind of been caught in between wanting to kind of partially defend and partially attack, but not really exceeding it either.
Yeah.
And it's no disrespect to the players. I just think they're caught in between two minds. John's teams in the past have either put 110% behind defending and then just, look to squeak a goal, and that works. Or, you can really just kind of really push up field and apply a lot of pressure offensively. And I feel like Darien's just not really doing either.
Yeah, I very much agree with that, Eric. I think it's a very difficult ask because it's not easy to defend, 110% in a game or have the mentality, because the opposing team just wears you down. And another great run by Caruso, and that should be a foul. Well done by Caruso. Yeah, I mean, Darien, it's hard to do that. But then on the other end is that if you apply too much pressure to Greenwich, they can just pass their way through you. I think John will need to make a decision one way or the other. But some encouraging signs, especially from Caruso making these runs forward. I know he's seen Billy Bronca all season do the same. I think Darien have some firepower on that offensive end.
If the standings stay where they are right now, as Darien lines up for a free kick, Greenwich has the 1 seed.
Wow. Very good effort.
West Hill has the 2 seed, Darien 3, New Canaan 4, Stanford 5, and Wright Tech 6. So it would be a Darien, Wright Tech, and then New Canaan Stanford matchup in the quarterfinals.
So again, I don't know how much truth there is to it, but I thought I heard John mention that Wright Tech had dropped out formally. So that might be where my comment about playing West Hill comes from. So again, something to follow up on, but could be some recent developments there.
If that is the case, I would not be surprised if they just give the 1 seed a bye week, which would definitely do some shuffling.
True, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they manage that.
And here I was thinking 2020 had enough drama. So, I mean, never ends.
Fox tried to get that ball to peg just too far, which is something we've seen a lot tonight from this Darien team, trying to get it up the field, but just putting it too far for their forwards. Got about 10 minutes remaining here in this second half. Greenwich still has a 2-0 lead as Christensen will kick that one away from danger.
Well played there by Christensen. Not easy to do to have the awareness to get out of your box, especially when you see Fox looking a little tired, lagging behind the forward there. Been really impressed by him overall, and been relatively impressed with the defensive effort, honestly. I think that on balance, it's been better than I saw against Greenwich, at least, in the last game. So again, I think that if they play Greenwich in the future, especially in a playoff game, they want to go into lockdown mode. They're getting closer, I think, to where they want to be to really frustrate this team. And I think that is the key, as Eric and I, saw in some of our more important matches against very high-quality teams, is that when you play someone of this caliber, you really need to frustrate them. This is a team that's used to controlling the game. They're used to winning. They're used to feeling very comfortable playing their style. And you need to just really kind of be a fly buzzing around their ear.
You mentioned Fox has been playing a pretty good game, but he looks tired, and he's definitely gotten more of a workload than he's probably used to in this game, as he and other senior captain Auckland are anchoring that back line for Darien, as they are missing Lau and Dumas.
Yeah, and some key players missing, Ted, but we mentioned earlier too, not a lot of substitutions for Darien. There's a lot of burden on a few key players in this team. It's something I think you can't see as easily as in a sport like basketball or hockey, where the substitutions are very visible, but some players out here really are playing the full 80 minutes and have to carry an enormous workload. So that shouldn't be forgotten. Shout out to them. Fox certainly one of them, seeing a lot of hustle and work out of Caruso. I think Caruso has been the one big spark offensively for Darien so far this game. So,
did you guys have any games where you guys were in for the full 80? It was getting down to that 75th minute, and you guys were just, breathing heavy, felt the pain in your lungs. And
yeah, you feel gassed. That West Hill game that Jonathan mentioned earlier, we played, I'm going to struggle with the math here. I guess it's a full 100 minutes, I believe. because there were 2 10-minute periods of extra time. And a lot of those players were in for the full game, and it was just really rough. You know, cold air. We had probably 3 or 4 people cramp up on the fields. Everything gets taken out of you. But again, it was that atmosphere at the Oval that really just kept you going, even for that last little bit. One more sprint, that extra tackle. So it was intense at some points, and it does take a toll. And it's funny because at a high school level, you really have very little time in between games sometimes. And you go home and you're feeling very sore, and then you get back up and do practice tomorrow. So.
Not to mention homework as well.
Can't forget that.
I know. Oh, God forbid. I think one game that I remember pretty well. That we forget in light of the West Hill game, because the West Hill game was a playoff game, was Staples, who ended up being the 3 seed in the FCIAC, and we were the 2 seed. We were, I think, slated on paper to lose that game. They were ahead of us at the time, and we ended up scoring a free kick goal pretty early, and we literally just did play defense for 70 minutes straight. It was a pretty gritty effort by us. I think Staples were very frustrated with the style of play that we'd chosen after going up 1-0. But that's kind of what you need to do to win these games. And and speaking of drama, I mean, that West Hill game, I believe that we were the 2nd seed, they were the 7th seed, but they were the 7th seed only because they had been penalized a couple of games, I believe, for having an
eligible player.
Yeah, and having an overage player who. So, yeah, not short of drama that year, and it seems it's the same case this year.
That's something you don't see every day, having an overaged player.
And he was very good, too.
No, and I think, part of what's changed have been, regulations and rules about players not being able to play club or premier. I think it's both, right? Or is it one?
Yeah.
If you also play high school. So I think that's changed the caliber of, some of the players that are in the league, obviously still very strong teams in the FCIAC, but it changes the dynamic. And, it's interesting that even at that high school level, they can monitor and detect kids who are not of age. So.
Yeah, I think it's something to mention, sort of a general trend in high school soccer. I think it's something.
Jeez.
That's brilliant pace right there. My word. And worth noting, by the way, that's Ryan Smith, usually the Greenwich center half. And I think John mentioned that after the game, is that he was saying their center half, and he was referring to Ryan Smith, usually plays forward. This is a guy I think he's been put in that position just, for a lack of depth for Greenwich in that position.
That was Owen Comey on that tackle there on Smith.
That was a great get back there by Comey. I think one thing that's changed is that if you want to play at a collegiate level, usually you play for these sort of regional clubs that demand a lot. They demand 6 a week, 7 a week practices and games. And it used to be the case that you could do both that and play a fall high school season. So a lot of people who went on to play professional soccer, play in the FCIAC, things like that. And now it's not the case. I think soccer is sort of unique in that the top players who have dreams of playing professionally or at D1 colleges actually are barred from playing in high school, which is something that I think not everyone knows. And certainly it's not the case in sports like football and lacrosse, where your biggest recruiting showcases are actually the high school games themselves. But again, that's what's so surprising about, I think, this Greenwich team is that we've been doing these DAF games for a little bit, and this is the first team we've seen where we've seen that caliber of player across the pitch for them. So testament to Darien, and seeing a lot of really good things here from them.
So Darien will check in Evan Hughes for Trevor Pegg. A little less than 4 minutes left in this match. And Greenwich still has a 2-0 lead as Fox uses his head to get that ball out of there.
Yeah, really well done by Fox there, despite being tired. Said this earlier on in the half, but Darien have done very well defending those set pieces, and it's critical. They're not conceding these easy kind of corner free kick goals, which can just completely, blank you out of a game.
Will Morgan has checked into the game for Darien. getting some senior minutes in. Now, I don't want to speak too soon, but barring any changes in these next 3 minutes, Greenwich will move to a very impressive 8-0 on the season, while Darien will move to 4-3-3. And what we've seen out of Greenwich is that they are definitely the 8-0 team that we see on this pitch tonight.
Yeah, completely agreed. I mean, I wouldn't want to burn the stat department, but I believe that they have some ridiculous combined scoreline against their opponents as well. The last game I commentated, they'd outscored their opponents, I think 22-1 at that point, and Greenwich was only, I think, 4-0 before that game. So it's probably just gotten worse and worse since then. This is a team that's just on a roll. They're unstoppable, and it's deserved. I mean, they have so much quality. A great effort from Darien, and Eric, I think that we mentioned is a bit of injustice that Darien is going to have to play Greenwich 3 times, but do you think that's going to help the team going forward, into their tough playoff games?
I think it'll give some of the younger players some good experience. I don't know if it's the best morale boost going into the playoffs, which is why I could partially see John kind of stepping off the gas a little, maybe getting some younger players in there. And I assume, unless Greenwich are really pushing for an undefeated record, they could do the same just to prevent injuries. But yeah, it's probably not the ideal game going into a playoff format, but yeah, anything could happen. Maybe it'll give them a confidence boost if they do come away with the results. And, I think in those single matchups in a knockout format, anything can happen. So Greenwich have been outstanding thus far, and you'd obviously have to put them as the favorites, but, nothing is out of the question for sure.
Agree to that. I was just going to say, too, that it's interesting that you get to play a team just so many times. Outside of the experience it gives playing a good team like Greenwich, you get to play, Greenwich themselves. And what that means is you sort of get to figure a few things out. And that's pretty unique. I mean, I don't know, Ted, are any other sports doing this, FCIAC West play the same team a few times type of thing? Or
So, yeah, every fall sport, at least, they're doing this whole kind of bubble thing. I guess you wouldn't really call it a bubble, but it is somewhat, where they're playing, teams that are close to them, with the exception for Darien of like Norwalk and Brian McMahon. They're in the Central Division, but all other sports they have some variation of the FCIAC West, FCIAC Central, FCIAC East. So everybody's playing within their own with their own little bubble, and then if we have winter and spring sports, we'll see if they try to do something similar to that.
Well, that'll make sense. Very good organization there by the FCIAC to sort things out, make a season possible, and going to create some interesting playoff games because usually when you play a team, you've only played them once, but not this time, and I guess we'll see this rematch again. But a very good game right here.
So that'll do it here on the DAF Media Network. A 2-0 score here. Greenwich moving to 8-0. Darien falling to 4-3-3. And guys, any final thoughts on this game?
Probably what you expected beforehand, just based on prior records and the previous matchup. But a pretty strong showing from Darien, all things considered, to walk away only with a 2-0 loss. Maybe a bit of a generous scoreline to them, but I think they performed well. And I think having 6 of your starters out due to injury or illness is never going to be helpful. So I hope John is able to look at the performance today and tweak a few things and push for a strong showing in the playoff format.
Totally agreed on all points with Eric, and I think that the fact you get to play this team so many times, we're going to play them the 3rd time, is just going to be a really good experience for this young Darien team, and I think that it's going to make the game feel a little bit lighter and a little bit more manageable, when they play lower quality opposition, and as such, I think this is a team that is slated for a nice playoff run. So very exciting times ahead, and a pretty encouraging game.
That'll do it here on the DAF Media Network. I'm going to give one final shout out to our production crew: Eric Bellingham, main camera; Kate DeMark, our ISO camera; Trey Cahill, our director; and Eric Hennigan and Jonathan Gill on the color commentating tonight. Thank you both so much for joining joining us here tonight, taking some time and helping me call this game.
Cheers, Ted. Had a great time.
Thank you, Ted.
So that'll do it. I'm Ted Brennan signing off. We will see you next time.